Hello and welcome to another episode of Around the Horns. We're always talking Texas baseball on Mondays with Coach Jim Schloss. Coach, how you doing after a wonderful weekend there in Starkville?
Yeah, pretty well. Certainly, we'll take the results and awesome experience. For awesome first experience for this program and our players to go on the road in the SEC at one of the classic historic environments in college baseball. And I think win or lose, I felt like our team responded well. I don't feel like they were spooked. We got up 2-0 on Friday and then got down, then scored, then got down more, came back, and then had to avoid some weather all day Saturday, which, those things always create good stories for the future and give your team a chance to bond a little bit. And then had a long day of baseball yesterday. So really proud of our team with the way they supported each other, different ways we won the games, and very thankful to the Longhorn fans that traveled with us. It was awesome.
Yeah, it looked like there was quite a good crowd of Texas fans that made the trip over to Starkville. I know the ones I talked to received a ton of hospitality out in left field and elsewhere. So that's always amazing to see that experience the first time on the road in SEC play. Uh, Obviously Saturday, the weather. How did y'all? I know y'all went and used the facilities, but how did y'all just try to keep the team loose and make sure everyone kind of stayed together so there wasn't any issues?
Yeah, we got up Saturday morning. Well, they banged the game Friday night, so we knew that going in. So we were able to go have a good dinner, and we knew we didn't have to get up early or do anything. And then got information from the local people, and Drew Bishop did a great job, and Drew Martin, who was on the trip with us, getting us information to keep the team safe. And our options were to go over to the football stadium at Mississippi State, and they were so kind and gracious and hospitable. They put the option was to go to the football stadium and kind of get down in the football locker room and hang out for a while, or take our chances at the hotel. And if if a tornado looked like it was going to be there or be close, then we would be sitting in a stairwell. And so I didn't want to be sitting in a stairwell for 4 hours. So we chose the football stadium, and the guys hung out in the football locker room. They were playing cards and watching, other college baseball games. And there was a coach's area where our coaching staff and everybody was able to hang out. So we were probably there for 4 hours or so. And then we got a message that it was pretty clear for the next couple hours. So we went to over to their indoor facility and got to hit, play catch, and then get a lift in. And then by that time, most of the storms were gone, and had another good dinner and watched some other SEC baseball games, and then went to bed. It was, it stunk not to get to play, and nobody really wants to be a part of doubleheaders, but things happen for you, not to you. And I think it was probably good for us to get some time together.
Yeah, no, I was definitely surprised because that evening I saw that Ole Miss and Arkansas kicked off over in Oxford, and I was like, wow, I'm knowing their field, which is has had water drainage issues in the past, I was like, man, I was really surprised that they were able to get that off. But
yeah, I think I don't exactly know how many hours they're apart, but I think Starkville is much more, at least for this storm, was much more in the tornado alley, I guess they would call it. And there was pictures on social media of a pretty big one south of Starkville. So, when people are making those decisions, including us here, it's a little different with turf, but when you're making these decisions, it's not just about the teams or the baseball. It's about the fans, and are people going to be able to get to the game and get home safely? Resources in a small community with regard to fire and police and disaster relief or whatever, stuff like that. People that work at the games, and it's kind of not fair sometimes to sit around and make everybody hang out all day. If it's going to be tough. They actually shut down the whole campus. So it was out of Coach Lamonis and the athletic department's hands, really, because they shut down the whole campus.
Yeah. Well, I have no doubt that y'all were able to find some good food. I heard good stories about restaurants there, and obviously Drew Bishop has always got a good meal on his eyes. So
Yeah, Starkville's a great college town. It's really good. I wish, they were on spring break, so the crowds weren't what they could have been. They were still great, but yeah, they were very hospitable and had some good meals. People were really nice.
Yeah. So over the weekend, getting into the games, the thing that stood out to me was just how the team, you mentioned, but how the team responded, right? Y'all, Friday night, y'all are down going into, I think it was the seventh inning. And then once again, y'all just have this big explosive output. Y'all score 5 runs. Obviously, that's not something you train for and you can just kind of build into the repertoire. But, it kind of continues to happen is that characteristic of the team is they're always battling. And then, as you kind of say, like you put the ball in play, good things happen. But how do you explain these time after time, these big innings happening for Texas that helps them really, take that lead and hold on?
Well, I mean, I think we all know how many innings are played, right? But what's the difference between scoring 5 in the seventh and 5 in the second? I mean, if you let panic set in versus just playing the game, then you're going to be in trouble. Obviously, we would love to score early and play from ahead, but I think that again, go back to mental skills. You just keep playing. And same thing on the defensive side. And when you have a chance to score 2, try to get 3. I mean, yesterday we left, and I think it was the first game, we had bases loaded and Gasparino up and 1 out. We had a chance to break the game open and a little bit, at least give us a little breathing room, and we didn't do it. And in the SEC, it's just the margins are so thin. And so on Friday night, we had some luck involved, which is part of baseball. Hungate came in. He's a kid we recruited. I thought we had a chance to get him in the portal from Virginia, and he's a ground ball pitcher. And I think we had like 3 ground balls get through. One was Gasparino's was hit pretty hard, but the others kind of found eyes and got through. And then Borba had the big swing of the bat. And so, and then yesterday, they hit some balls hard into some shifts, and we got the big double play from Borba. So, but yeah, I mean, I think you just have to have a mentality that keep your eyes off the scoreboard. You just play, and we can score in the 8th inning just like we can score in the second. It's harder on the heart, harder on my heart at least. But you just keep playing, and I think it also goes into your pitching, and like just keeping the team close. And if you come in and the team's losing 4-1, keep it at 4. If you give up 1, don't give up 2, and you just keep playing and wait. And when the game's over, we'll find out who wins and loses.
Yeah, I thought, especially Friday night really exemplified what SEC baseball is. It doesn't matter what the score is at any given time. Any of these teams have the capability and the hitters to do damage, right? And up and down the lineup, I think that's one of the things that folks have seen from Texas this year is it doesn't matter 1 through 9. Those guys are going up with a solid strategy and approach that they can affect the game. You mentioned the razor thin margins. I think also that was very well exemplified across the entire league play this weekend, where you saw a lot of games where it didn't matter if it was 12-11 or 1-0. There was a lot of teams that it's just those little things that add up throughout the game. So
yeah, and I think the one thing that's so different, it's cool to we have some people on our staff that have never been part of the SEC that were in other conferences, and I'll ask them like, I can't wait for the end of the season. Well, I mean, I want to enjoy the year, but I want to say, like, tell me the differences. Tell me what you see. And I've even started to ask those questions after one weekend, and they give you the same answers that I already knew. And that is, all the teams are good. There's a top 2%, like the major leagues. There's a top 2 or 3% of player that's better than everybody else, but everybody else's kind of average SEC player is about the same. But the 2 things that the best teams have from a position player standpoint is athleticism and power. And for a traditional baseball person that wants to see a lot of bunting and stuff like that, you got to be careful. You better have an elite bullpen because if you play for a run, you're going to lose by a run. And that's my opinion. And so, our guys are super competitive. You saw, Tommy Farmer didn't have a great weekend, but how important was outfield defense.
Yeah.
And so I think, in recruiting, that's what we're continually looking for is you got to have guys that can move and play multiple positions. You got to have guys, they don't have to be super fast, but you can't be super slow. And for most people, you may not hit a ton of homers like that individual person, but the threat of the home run is so massive. The ballparks are small. The wind blows usually out of the south once the weather changes. And so the games, like, you're just hanging on this thin margin of, golly, if we throw another breaking ball down and into Hunter Hines or Ace Reese or, those guys, like, they can just lift it out of the ballpark. And when a team doesn't have that, it's a relief. Like, hey, this guy's a good little player, but he's not going to beat us on one swing. And so,
Yeah.
The best teams, I've only been in the league now 3.33 years or 3.25 years, but power and the ability to run bases and get first to third and score on a double, like, it means so much. And that's where we're trying to get this place in recruiting. We have some of that right now, but not enough. And then, from a pitching staff standpoint, you have to be unique and you have to do multiple things to get these guys out.
Yeah, that was one thing that someone texted me over the weekend. They said, Mississippi State, their bullpen really surprised me. I didn't think it would be maybe as good as it was. He's like, they just keep rolling out guys that are throwing 95, 96, 95, 90. And then you guys mix in like a 76 curveball that's over the top with a slider that's a firm. And like, yeah, they're just throwing all kinds of looks at your hitters. It's like, yeah, of course you're going to strike out at times. So,
I mean, you got to understand, that's a team that won a national title within the last 3 years. And so
yeah,
they've been able to recruit off that. But that's what you're going to see every single weekend. And if you thought Mississippi State's was good, wait till you see this upcoming weekend,
Yeah.
And so, and our pitching is good too. We're a little more unique, a little more, and Max does such a good job with that. And sometimes if everybody is 94 to 96 with a breaking ball and if everybody's the same, then the hitters can get used to that. If everybody's a little unique, then that's, that can be a challenge too. So, but yeah, I mean, anybody who, no disrespect to any other conferences, but it's not like on Sunday you're going to get a guy throwing 89 that can't throw strikes. I mean, that's not, at least for most teams in this conference, it's not happening.
Yeah, and just, you mentioned your bullpen, obviously big props to them. 3 earned runs over 9.2 innings over the weekend. Obviously, the doubleheader was shortened because you had 2 7-inning games, but your bullpen really stood up at the end of those games when they needed both length and just situational pitching. Dylan Volantis, as an example, coming in on Friday night to slam the door, and what Max Grubbs did, what Ruger did. So, how would, I guess, not just impressive, but how do you think about that as you're going, okay, now we know that we have the pieces, that they're not afraid of the light. We know that we can put them in numerous situations. How does that bolster the rest of the staff to then be able to try to, emulate what they're doing as well?
Yeah, it's awesome. You've heard me talk about the term all-time pitcher, a guy that can do multiple things. And between Max, Ruger, and Dre was awesome. And Dre was available yesterday, which, he came up to me and said, Coach, I'm ready if you need me. And that was great to hear. He's in much better shape. His arm's in better shape. Training staff's doing a great job with him. And so, I think what that does is, it doesn't put as much pressure on those starting pitchers. What it really helps is, like, if you can get one extended start in a weekend, right? So if Spencer or Luke or whomever pitches in the third game, but especially in the first 2 days, if you can get somebody that gets you through the 6th or something like that, or into the 7th, which is rare, then, man, you really set yourself up for the weekend. And it allows, and they're all, all 3 of those guys are super unique too. And then what we need, like we had a little bit last Tuesday, is you have to have those other guys pick you up during the week. And give you innings. And tomorrow night we may be facing the best offensive team we've seen all year. I haven't looked today, but last time I checked on UTSA, they were hitting 370 as a team.
Yeah.
And they just got to hit up at DBU, which always is a very offensive place. So, but yeah, those guys that can do multiple things and even pitch multiple times in a weekend, they're enormous, and they allow you to shrink your pitching staff to the guys who are pitching the best, and the guys that pitch the best will pitch the most.
Yeah. And then back to the margins we were talking about. You had your three big kind of hitters so far this season: Max Blue, Jalen Flores, and Adrian Rodriguez. When it combined 1 for 30, but Max's one big hit is the 2-run home run that was the difference in the on Sunday game 1 of the doubleheader. But that just speaks to the type of pitching talent within the league itself. So you mentioned UTSA coming up. Y'all have a really big week ahead. Obviously, UTSA is a really talented squad. They beat A&M in College Station earlier this season. They've played Baylor. They just got off a 3-game series against what I think is a really talented DBU squad. They're top 20 team in the nation, and they always have power arms and a lot of offense. How do you approach the situation or pitching situation in that sense? Is it guys looking at more looks at guys like Bryce Navarre and Cody Howard and some of those guys that maybe haven't had as many opportunities, but this is a time where you want to win the game, but you got to get those guys lined up as well.
Yeah, and those are the ones that are available to pitch. I mean, we're not going to stress anybody out on a Tuesday night before we play a conference team. So, if you're going to have a good season, you need everybody to help. We had a kid at A&M last year who didn't make an SEC road trip, didn't travel, named Zane Badmayev. He was in his 6th year. He was a doctoral student. He already had his master's. Awesome guy. Awesome. But he threw strikes. He threw his breaking ball for strikes, and he pitched or started some Tuesdays. Normally we would start a freshman. We started 5 freshmen at A&M last year in games on the mound, but Zane was always available to give us innings or length on a Tuesday. And think about that. He didn't travel. And then we get to Omaha, and we use him as an opener in a College World Series game because we had lost Shane Sadeo. So we were scrambling for starting pitching in Omaha. But Zane, who had, was older, who had pitched in a great role, think about the selflessness that young man had to show. Didn't travel. He could have pouted. And so, that's what we need out of some of these guys. And whether it be Bryce or Rarick or Cody or Hudson Hamilton, like just there's guys down there that it's not so much, we don't need you to give us 6 innings. That'd be sweet, but just give us 6 outs, give us 3 outs, keep us in the ball game. And then your job on the weekend is to pick us up if needed. Otherwise, be a great teammate and have good energy in the dugout. And that's how you put together a great season. And they all count, man. They all count. And that's what we're going to need tomorrow night against a really, really, really good team.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. You mentioned being a great teammate. You post game, you talked about the player spotting. They're not in the game, but they're at the top step. They're helping their guys on the field or in the dugout, see something about the pitchers. And you can just, you see the energy, and you can tell from the team itself that they're having a lot of fun together. And I know you've mentioned that multiple times. That's one thing you've noticed about this squad, but that's something that definitely continues to stand out from the 10,000-foot seat that everyone else has.
Yeah, I think that's been a strong point. Oliver Service, Jaden Duplantier, Jonah Williams, man, he's awesome right at the top step. There's other guys down there, Jacques Stewart, the Chamberlain, those guys, they're ready to go, but at the same time, they're not pouting about it. I'm sure they'd love to play more. But the whole dugout supports itself. A guy makes an out, he takes off his helmet, his batting gloves, he's mad for about 30 seconds. And then our rule is once you take off your helmet, once you take off your batting gloves, that at bat is over. Your job is to get a drink of water and get to the top step. And we use the term spotting, I don't know if we've talked about that on here, but it's kind of like weightlifting. If you're in the weight room by yourself and you're trying to, if a guy's max bench press is 225 pounds, well, if you're trying to push that 225 by yourself, it's not easy. But if you got your teammates standing around you, screaming and yelling, supporting you, that 225 starts to move a little quicker. And so, I just think it's super important, especially on the road. At home, we hope we have a ton of fans doing that for us. But I'm really proud of our guys that way. And again, the challenge is, can they do the same thing when it's not going well, when there's been a few rough days? And I'd like to think we're going to win them all, but it's that's not going to be the case. So that'll be the true challenge. But I believe in our team.
Gotcha. Well, Coach, I know you got y'all's days off, so I'll let you hit the road. But I just wanted to remind fans, tomorrow night, UTSA comes to town, the Roadrunners, 6:30 p.m. Make sure you pack the dish. It's supposed to be beautiful weather. I think it's mid 80s already, so it already feels like summer's right around the corner. And then, of course, this weekend is the big one against the LSU Tigers. Two of the winningest programs in college baseball. They're coming to town, so definitely going to need to pack the dish and see all the fans out there, because I'm sure it'll be quite the electric, super regional type party at the dish, as people like to say. So,
yeah, no question. We're
going
to need everybody to show up. Again, if you're not going to use your tickets, please don't sell them to the other team on StubHub. Get them to us. We'll get them in the hands of Longhorn fans. And it's like it's an Omaha bracket almost every weekend you play. So super excited.
Awesome. Coach, appreciate the time. Congrats on the first weekend sweep there in SEC play, and y'all have a great week.
Hook 'em.
Welcome.